911 was an emergency. What's going on? Who had the knife? What's going on?
This heartbreaking 911 call came from 13-year-old Megan Zanella as she urgently sought help for her mother, who was in danger. When police arrived at the scene, they found Sabrina Zunich, the foster sister, in a state of distress, holding a knife. Inside the master bedroom, Lisa Knoefel had tragically passed away, while her 3-year-old daughter Hailey was found hiding in fear in the closet. Lisa tragically passed away from severe injuries. Court records revealed she fought desperately for her life, with significant defensive wounds. The attack was brutal, and the weapon used showed signs of intense force. Sabrina, who also had injuries, appeared to be in shock. She was taken into custody, but refused to speak to investigators. Meanwhile, Lisa's husband, Megan Knoefel, was out of town in Michigan. But when officers informed him of his wife's brutal murder, his reaction raised red flags. According to court records, he was oddly calm, more interested in the details of the attack than shaken by it. As detectives dug deeper, they uncovered a twisted web of manipulation, jealousy, and murder. And here's the chilling part: this isn't the only case like it. Before moving in with the Knoefel family, Sabrina Zunich's life was anything but stable. Her biological parents battled drug and alcohol addiction and had multiple run-ins with the law. She was mostly raised by her grandmother and was diagnosed with multiple mental health issues, including ADHD, depression, and bipolar disorder. As a teenager, she frequently got into fights and bounced in and out of the foster care system for years. Then at 16, she moved in with Lisa and Megan Knoefel in Willoughby Hills, Ohio. Lisa was a social worker specializing in child abuse cases, while Kevin was a truck driver. They already had 2 daughters, Megan, from Lisa's first marriage, and little Hailey, who was born in 2009. At first, Sabrina fit right in and grew close to the children, but everything changed in December 2011. Despite doing well in school, Sabrina started lashing out at home. She constantly fought with Lisa, convinced that she favored her own daughters over her, and that's when she turned to Kevin.
How do you get along with Kevin?
Kevin and me are cool. I mean, he's more the one that helps me out, because this is Megan to deal with. Megan has mental instability herself.
Okay.
And so we made agreements a long time ago that if I need anything, that I can go to Kevin.
But their relationship became increasingly inappropriate as they grew unnaturally close. According to one witness, they were too friendly, too close. They made uncomfortable jokes with each other, and it wasn't just talk. Sabrina later admitted to investigators that by the spring of 2012, their relationship had crossed boundaries. What started with massages and inappropriate pictures eventually escalated into something more serious. Meanwhile, Kevin and Lisa's relationship was deteriorating. The couple was arguing frequently, and Kevin even told others he was considering a divorce. Then in October 2012, things took an even darker turn. Sabrina asked a high school friend if she knew anyone who could harm Lisa for her. Sabrina believed that Lisa's life insurance would provide the financial security for her and Kevin to start a new life together. That same month, Kevin reached out to Sabrina's social worker, asking if she could stay with him if he and Lisa separated. By October 27th, Sabrina turned 18 and was legally able to leave foster care. However, instead of leaving, she petitioned to stay in the Knoefels' home to finish high school. By this point, Lisa had grown suspicious and wanted Sabrina to move out. Despite this, Sabrina and Kevin continued their secret relationship. Every morning, Kevin drove Sabrina to school, and during these drives, their relationship became increasingly inappropriate. On the morning of November 15th, 2012, Kevin pulled over during their drive to school and became emotional. He told Sabrina that he and Lisa had had a major argument the night before, and he was contemplating serious actions if Lisa wasn't gone soon. Sabrina later testified that she was concerned about Kevin and, feeling conflicted, offered to take matters into her own hands. After Lisa's tragic death, Kevin's behavior raised concerns. Friends who checked on the family noticed that he seemed unusually detached, almost unaffected by his wife's passing. Later that day, he visited Sabrina at the jail but became visibly upset when he was denied access. Meanwhile, the police continued questioning Sabrina, trying to understand why she took such drastic actions.
She's never seen the life of me, and she's been wanting me out of the house.
What's your thoughts on how Lisa is not alive now?
What?
What is your thoughts on that she is not alive?
Sabrina claimed she could not remember what had happened, saying she had gone to Lisa's room to pick up some medication.
You came to the house, you had the knife in your hand.
Are you sure it wasn't self-defense?
There's always two sides to every story.
Even without her confession, there was enough evidence pointing to her involvement, so she was arrested and charged in connection with Lisa's death. As for Kevin, he quickly moved on. Just 2 days after Lisa's passing, he donated her belongings to charity, and in an unexpected move, he also attempted to sell her furniture. Then, just 5 days later, on November 17th, he hired a cleaning crew to clear the house, acting as if nothing had happened. Then came the financial decisions. Kevin collected Lisa's life insurance, paid off his house, bought new cars, and a home in Florida, even going so far as to take flying lessons. While Sabrina remained in jail, taking responsibility for the crime, Kevin seemed to be moving on with his life. But 9 months later, his luck ran out. Tired of being the scapegoat, Sabrina decided to speak out and reveal the truth. She told investigators everything, how they had planned Lisa's death together, how they once considered having Sabrina's friend carry it out, and even discussed using a gun with a pillow to muffle the shot. Ultimately, they decided Sabrina would carry out the attack while Lisa was sleeping. The plan was disturbingly detailed. If Lisa was on her side, Sabrina would act quickly. If Lisa was on her back, they planned to incapacitate her. They also took Hailey, Lisa's youngest daughter, into account, ensuring the attack wouldn't disturb her, as she sometimes wandered into her mother's room at night. And Kevin? He had coached Sabrina on what to say if she got caught, advising her to act insane, which is why she pretended not to remember anything during her police interviews.
What if I go to prison? And he said, you'll only do 25, and I'll get you lawyers, and I'll make sure that you're taken care of.
Of course, Kevin didn't fulfill his promises, and Sabrina eventually realized she had been misled. So, she reached an agreement with prosecutors and decided to cooperate with them against Kevin. Kevin Knoeffel's trial began in May 2014, with Sabrina serving as the prosecution's key witness.
Why did you do that?
Because I was doing what I was told to do.
After just 9.5 hours of deliberation, the jury found him guilty on multiple charges, including aggravated murder. He was sentenced to life in prison, with the possibility of parole after 30 years. As for Sabrina, she pleaded guilty to aggravated murder in August 2014. She was also sentenced to life in prison, with the possibility of parole after 30 years. While this case is certainly shocking, let's move on to another equally troubling case of a teen involved in a tragic incident with her mother.
The 18-year-old smirked at the camera as she stood up and walked to the defense table this afternoon, her arms and legs shackled. After the judge read the complaint against her, she looked over, stared at the camera, and motioned to the area under each of her eyes with her index finger.
This tragic event took place in Aurora, Colorado, where 18-year-old Isabella Guzman lived with her mother, Yunmi Hoy, and stepfather, Roy. Unfortunately, Isabella and her mother had a challenging relationship, with frequent conflicts that had been escalating over time. According to Roy, Isabella became increasingly confrontational toward her mother, at one point even showing disrespect and acting in a threatening manner. Then, on August 28, 2013, the situation took a tragic and unexpected turn. That morning, Yunmi Hoy received a concerning email from her daughter with the words, "You will pay." The two had been arguing for weeks, mostly over Isabella's decision to leave school. Yunmi Hoy had urged Isabella to reconsider, but Isabella was resolute in her decision. The arguments grew more intense, and tensions in the household were high. In an effort to resolve the conflict, Yunmi Hoy called the police for assistance. Officers arrived, spoke with both of them, and left, believing the situation was under control. However, they couldn't have anticipated what would happen next. That same evening, Yunmi Hoy returned home from work around 9:30 p.m. She went upstairs to take a shower, just an ordinary night, or so it seemed. But then, her husband, Roy, heard something, a loud noise followed by a distressing scream. Panicked, Roy rushed upstairs, but the bathroom door was locked. His wife and daughter were inside. He noticed something alarming under the door. Terrified, he ran downstairs and called 911, telling them, "My wife and daughter are in the bathroom, and I can see something alarming coming from under the door." When he returned upstairs, the door was open, and there was Isabella, standing in the doorway, holding a knife, staring directly at him. Without saying a word, she turned, walked down the stairs, opened the front door, and disappeared into the night. Roy rushed into the bathroom and found Yunmi Hoy, unclothed, with multiple injuries, and a baseball bat nearby. He tried to save her, but it was too late. She had sustained serious injuries. The police launched a large manhunt, warning the public that Isabella was armed and dangerous.
Female is going to be armed with a knife. She's an 18-year-old female. It says mixed race. I think it might be with Asians. She's wearing a pink tank top, shorts.
It didn't take long to locate Isabella. Just the next afternoon, when she was found hiding in a parking garage, she was still wearing the same clothes, which were now stained. Her court appearance came on September 5th, 2013, and it was quite unusual. Isabella had to be escorted from her cell, and when she entered the courtroom, she made strange gestures and facial expressions, seemingly unaffected by the situation. She pleaded not guilty by reason of insanity. A doctor testified that Isabella had been diagnosed with schizophrenia for years and was experiencing delusions at the time. In her mind, mind, she hadn't harmed her mother, but believed she had attacked someone named Cecilia in an attempt to save the world. Prosecutors didn't dispute this claim, acknowledging that the evidence suggested Isabella wasn't in control of her actions and had been overcome by her illness. The judge agreed and ordered her commitment to the Colorado Mental Health Institute until she was deemed no longer a danger to herself or others. Then, in an unexpected turn of events, Isabella's case gained attention online years later. In 2020, clips from her court hearing resurfaced on TikTok. Some videos were edited with the song Sweet But Psycho by Ava Max, while others showed people mimicking her courtroom expressions. Surprisingly, some viewers began to express support for her. Some praised her appearance, while others suggested that there must have been reasons behind her actions. A compilation of court moments gathered nearly 2 million views, and fan pages started appearing on social media platforms like Facebook and Instagram. Meanwhile, Isabella remained in the mental hospital, working on her recovery. In November 2020, she filed a petition for her release, claiming she was no longer a danger to herself or others.
I was not myself when I did that, and I have since been restored to full health. The fight with my mom was terrible, and I was injured in the process. I have the scars on my hands. I don't know if you can see or not. I'm not mentally ill anymore. I'm not a danger to myself or others.
She also shared something surprising. She mentioned that she had faced challenges within her family for years. She explained that things became more difficult after she left the Jehovah's Witness faith at the age of 14.
I was abused at home by my family for many years. My parents are Jehovah's Witnesses. And I left the religion when I was 14, and the abuse at home worsened after I quit.
By June 2021, Isabella was allowed to leave the hospital for therapy sessions. Despite the tragic events, she expressed regret, saying, "If I could change it or take it back, I would." As of January 2025, Isabella Guzman remains at the Colorado Mental Health Institute, continuing her recovery while living with the impact of that tragic night in 2013. Now, let's look at our final case of a 14-year-old who believed she could escape the consequences of a devastating act against her mother.
What's the location of your emergency? What daughter? Your daughter tried to. Where is she at?
On March 19, 2024, in Brandon, Mississippi, 14-year-old Carly Gregg was involved in an incident with her mother, Ashley Smiley, a 40-year-old math teacher, at their home. Earlier that day, one of Carly's friends informed Ashley about Carly's use of marijuana. When Carly and Ashley returned home from school, Ashley began searching Carly's room. What she discovered only heightened the tension, a few items that suggested Carly had been hiding things. When Ashley confronted her daughter, the situation took a tragic turn. A kitchen security camera captured the moments before and after the event. In the footage, Carly can be seen walking toward her room while holding something behind her back. Moments later, loud noises were heard, followed by Ashley's screams, but Carly did not seem to panic. She calmly sat in the kitchen, texting on her phone while her dogs were nearby. She appeared unaffected by what had just occurred. The prosecution later revealed that Carly had been texting her stepdad using her mother's phone, trying to bring him home. She wrote, "When will you be home, honey?" At the same time, Carly texted her friends, saying there was an emergency and asking them to come over. When one of her friends arrived, Carly reportedly asked, "Have you ever seen a dead body before?" She then led her friend to where her mother was and allegedly said, "I hurt my mom and I have more for my stepdad when he gets home." Before her stepdad arrived, Carly removed the indoor security camera and hid it in the refrigerator. The outdoor camera recorded Heath arriving at 5:03 p.m. and everything seemed normal until he opened the kitchen door. That's when things took a dramatic turn.
Everything seemed pretty normal, and I came on in, and when I opened the door to the kitchen there, and went off in my face before the door was, I don't know, 3 or 4 inches wide open. And everything kind of kind of went pretty fast from there. It was a blur.
Even though he had been injured in the shoulder, Heath managed to fight back. He confronted Carly, wrestled the weapon away from her, and 2 more shots were fired during the struggle. When deputies arrived at the Smiley home, body cam footage captured a chaotic scene. Heath was lying on the ground outside the front door, visibly distressed, telling officers, "She caused harm to her mom. She tried to harm me." A manhunt was immediately initiated for Carly, and within an hour, she was located nearby and taken into custody. Based on the evidence, Carly was charged as an adult with murder, attempted murder, and tampering with evidence. She pleaded not guilty and was held on a $1 million bond while awaiting trial. Her week-long trial began on September 16th, 2024. Prosecutors described her as a dangerous, manipulative teenager, citing items like burner phones, hidden vape pens, a history of cheating in school, and signs of self-harm. Her defense team, however, argued that she was in the midst of a mental health crisis when the incident occurred. A psychiatrist testified that her mood swings, difficulty sleeping, eating challenges, and history of self-harm had worsened in early 2024. According to the psychiatrist, Carly was experiencing auditory hallucinations and dissociation, and a new medication she began taking just days before the incident may have intensified her symptoms.
She was having, if I may, mood issues, eating disorder issues, herself, hearing voices, and sleeping difficulty. All, I guess, leading up to January of 2024.
Despite everything, Heath testified in Carly's defense. He said she had no memory of the shooting and described how unrecognizable she seemed that day.
She was screaming out of her mind, scared. It was like she had seen a demon or something. She was terrified. And my first thought was there was an intruder somewhere and she thought she was after somebody else.
Still, Heath insisted they maintained a good relationship and communicated every day. Prosecutors also presented Carly's personal journal to the jury. It included a list of troubling beliefs, such as, "There is no God, it's okay to be harmful, and you don't need family." A forensic psychiatrist reviewed the journal and described the entries as concerning. The defense argued that the journal reflected Carly's mental health challenges, but other psychiatrists disagreed. One expert testified that Carly was competent to stand trial and did not meet the legal criteria for insanity. This psychiatrist expressed doubts about Carly's claims of hearing voices, noting that she had never reported auditory hallucinations to any of her doctors prior to the trial, and suggested she may have overstated her symptoms. Before the trial, Carly was offered a plea deal of 40 years in prison, but she declined it, hoping her defense would be successful. However, it did not. On September 20th, 2024, Carly became emotional as the jury found her guilty on all counts.
We, the jury, find the defendant, Carly Madison Gregg, guilty of first-degree murder as charged in the indictment. Count 2. We, the jury, find the defendant, Carly Madison Gregg, guilty of attempted murder as charged in the indictment. Count 3. We, the jury, find the defendant, Carly Madison Gregg, guilty of tampering with evidence as charged in the indictment. Please be seated, Ms. Gregg.
After just an hour of deliberation, the jury decided to sentence her to life in prison without parole. But now, I want to hear from you. What are your thoughts on these shocking cases? Which one left you the most stunned? Drop your opinions in the comments below. And if you thought these stories were disturbing, just wait until you see what's coming next. Before you go, hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss an update.